So what does this mean for clients? You're going to see more developers and what we call user experience people at the initial briefing table. So the developers, hopefully I've convinced you that the very best engineers are great thinkers, and that to have them at the beginning of conception of an idea is actually a very good thing. Great. So what does user experience mean? User experience it's actually a huge term, and it starts with information architecture. It's drawing plans like an architect would for a building, understanding your information flow and how you're going to extract that information, all the way through to what we call human-computer interaction, so the user interface design. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle there. Now, what these people are very unique individuals, and there's, like I was saying at the last conference I spoke at, there's only 10 user experience people in this country that I rate, and there's probably about 30 that can do the job. These guys are very, very rare, and I'll explain about that in a minute. What does this mean for agencies and clients? Well, clearly you're going to see developers grow into creative directors. So start understanding that psychology. I think that's super important. And then obviously you guys will see, we will see these user experience people. So what does user experience do? User experience takes anthropology majors, psychology majors, math majors, and it's the intersection really of kind of culture, socialization, and math. And what it is, it's trying to work out how humans interact with everything, the world around them, and then designing and getting executions on ideas that tap into those effective heuristics. There's been this huge growth in behavioral economics. The behavioral economics is about, hang on, humans actually aren't rational. Again, what Ahmed was talking about. We respond really well to evocative communications. It's actually about understanding the irrationalities of humans and building product and digital experiences around that. This is very, very important to understand that. You're going to see user experience everywhere. You're going to see in every part of marketing, as successful marketing communications become digital, that user experience person has to be there. Because trust me, 8 to 9 times out of 10, it is not the most rational or logical execution that works. We are very irrational. Math majors and statisticians, deep experience in social sciences. So a lot of the copywriters already have the social sciences degrees, but I'm talking deep experience, big longitudinal studies, lots of statistics, lots of math majors. We're hiring these guys as well. We call them data scientists, and they spend a lot of time, and they actually find art and insights and patterns in huge data sets. I'll get to that in a minute. So my view is that we're going to end up having these interactive creative directors. I think that's kind of cumbersome. We'll probably, hopefully we'll create a better name for them, or they'll just be creative directors. But the guys who work on the Nike Plus brand, the Nike operating system, which is this extensible, beautiful marketing communications tool. It cost about $20 million to build. It's an actual operating system built by Weirden and Kennedy that allows a whole bunch of campaigns to go on. The guys who run that, the lead creatives on that, are developers, interactive creative directors. So what does this mean to the agency and also to the client? It means that production is actually, the complexity of production is increased by an order of magnitude. I think one thing the classical agencies did really well, they did it well, but then the client got smart enough to take the money away, but they outsourced most of the production, the stuff that wasn't really value-adding to their business, and they focused on the conceptual idea, and they wrote scripts and TV ads around that. That's cool. Then eventually the clients took the media away, and so they lost a big chunk of money, and quite frankly, the actual creative execution doesn't make enough money. That's just an incidental. So what's happening with digital, you can't outsource that. You can't dislocate, or not yet. I think once we abstract a lot of these technologies more, you can then outsource production. But right now, we've had to bring that production in-house. And that means as an agency, as Quirk as an agency, means our complexity, the level of business complexity has just become insane. Because all of a sudden now, we don't put an art and copywriter together. We put an art director, copywriter. We have to have that strategy person there because they've got the insights on the heuristics, the irrationality. So they then give insights to the user experience people. These user experience people have to talk to the developers and the artwork guys. So we start seeing 4 or 5 people need to collab very, very closely to create very successful communications. So the complexity is insane. It's tough, and we're still trying to solve that problem at the moment at Quirk. We think we've got the right model. So let's have a look. The model for us, there's this word called collaboration. It's kind of been used in business for almost, well, over a decade. And it kind of means nothing, so I don't really like using it. But the reality of it is still very, very true. And not many businesses have cracked how to get their people to collaborate effectively. That's why good art director, copywriter is so powerful, because they understand their chemistry and they actually want to collaborate. They need to collaborate. They need to bounce ideas off each other. Right, so how do we do this in a digital world? Super tough, you know, because it's not just 2 people anymore, not right now. So you need to create a culture of what I call mind Woodstock, so mind sex. You need to get people to want to make mind love, and we do that by structuring our desks in a strange way. We've created dedicated war rooms for projects now. We spend a lot of time putting teams around brands, so we have what's called brand teams, which sounds obvious, but it's actually quite expensive to do, because your production capacity for a client is never full-time. I mean, it is sometimes, but very, very rarely. Very rarely, almost never. In fact, I got a client to pay 100% of her head the other day in an agreement, only because she doesn't have head count, so she's getting me to hire a person. Otherwise, a client will never pay a full head. So to have brand teams dedicated to that, often they'll be sitting on their hands for 30, 40% of the time. So it's really, really tough economically for us to make this work, but it produces the better product. So we have to get these 3, 4, 5 people to sit together. And that often means I need to have 2 desks for them. One's a mobile desk where they can come together and collab. Another one is their real desk. So as a human, psychologically, they feel that they have a place that they belong. They're actually almost never there. But psychologically, the social contract I build with these people, I have to have that desk. So it's kind of interesting, and you really need to crack this collaboration thing. I think it's a bit of a secret sauce, like Ahmed was talking about the idea. He was saying that I just know. It's not something that we can write, say, this actual process here will be successful for us. Because it does differ per client, and I'm sure per agency, and it's definitely depend on the culture you have. The other thing we've worked out too, and this is also a Google term, is the minimum viable brief. So what happened was, we at the start of digital agencies, we got given a brief, in inverted commas, because it wasn't a brief. It was, this is how you will execute, back in the early days, and then we executed that based on everyone else's ideas. And there was no art direction or thinking in the digital agency. Then we grew, and we realized that this classical model of doing quite detailed briefs was very, very good. It then allowed us to limit the mistakes, allowed us to stop clients getting irritated with us, and all the stuff that I'm sure you guys know better than me. But what happened was, as the complexity increased, so the time to write the brief increased. And the time to write the brief would literally put hours and hours onto this process. And I think there's a great quote by Hegarty that I actually tweeted the other day. It's, the more you process ideas like food, the blander they get. So we found that by just writing these very, very complicated, technical, precise briefs, you lost the essence of what the client was trying to solve. It then went in, and the interpretation, because of the complexity, the interpretation complexity also went through the roof. So people interpreted these things, ironically, off message. So what we've realized probably about 6 months ago when we started retooling our production process was that the minimum viable brief was actually the way to go. And so what we did is we essentially state the business problem, and we state possible execution, some idea of execution. But then we hand that to the smart people and we say, guys, there's a lot of latitude here. Go and produce something, but produce it very, very quickly. And let's take it back to client and see if we're on the right track, find out what they like. So you've got this highly iterative process. I'll talk a little bit more about that now. So in the web world, in Silicon Valley, this is called agile production. Agile production's been around for almost 10 years in the software development world. And essentially what it says is we're not going to build the entire project plan with every single bit of detail at the start. we're going to have just a tiny bit of the project plan with the end goal, and we're going to iterate. We're going to produce a little bit, we're going to keep what works, and then we're going to produce a little bit more and a little bit more. We found that this works very, very well in a digital agency. So we have now mashed up our own process between what's called waterfall, this detailed production project management, which is still used in classical today, with agile. And from a producer point of view, I'm talking about. And we found that this is producing a lot of success for us. So we're very, very excited about it. What are the costs? The costs are that you need to have, you need more client time. Clients have to be willing to give you more time because you're going to have a lot more reviews. And they're going to be short-paced reviews. If the client can get their head around this in their busy day, it actually produces much better results because you take the client along for the journey, and the insights that they can give you produce better results, we've found. So while we try and derive the idea, there's no reason why that idea can't be perfected with the client.